Welcome to Hospitality Meets CRM. My name is Bruno Horta Soares. I'm an advisor and professor in the areas of digital transformation and hospitality. And for the last 20 years, I turn buzzwords in business values in organizations in different sectors, particularly in hospitality.
And I'm Diogo Rebelo, and I lead the HubSpot CRM practice at Find More Solutions.
Okay, in today's episode, we're going to discuss this concept of the evolving guest experience and why CRM and HubSpot in particular is actually a game changer. We're going to discuss how the sense of hyper-personalization, how to deliver a consistent, seamless guest experience is actually turning the industry. So Diogo, when we talk about digital transformation, sometimes we discuss this change. This is not only technology, this is actually economy. And we discussed that the economy is changing from a moment where we have an economy based on the offer. Organizations offer products and services, and now we are in a demand economy, which comes to my mind. Nowadays, the client is everyone says the client is the focus, client-centric this, client-centric that. But in your view, if we start by discussing this is not about technology, this is not about CRM, this is because the clients need. How you see the client in hospitality in 5 years? Let's start. Is this actually the desire? What are the desires of a client in client experience for the next years?
I think the client will want to be served with the things they are looking for in with correct offers in the correct time. What I think it's almost easier to say what the client doesn't want to have, but the client doesn't want to have offers that are completely off context, and I think it's about getting the right message at the same time, at the correct time. And that is essential for a good experience from the customer.
Yeah, but if we go back many years, and we work in industry for some years, we passed that era, let's say it, when we talk about digitalizing processes. But this is not about digitalizing, this is about digital. Do you see the companies already understanding the difference between doing the same things with some technology or actually changing the way they interact with the clients?
I think from my experience dealing with some hospitality customers is the technology stack and the technology that is basically supporting their activities is I don't want to use the word old school, but it's kind of like it's old, so it's past dated. And I think from a digital point of view, in terms of communication, capturing data, consolidating data, that's a big issue for the majority of the hospitality businesses, that at the moment they live with set of tools completely disjointed without a clear understanding of what their customer profile is. So I think it's still far from from the moment of being able to create those amazing experiences or the giving the correct message in the correct time, due to the fact that they don't have that data or that information in a way that they can that they are able to act.
Because somehow we are discussing the technology that is already in the hand of the customer, and sometimes the companies are still thinking about technology they can implement in their data centers and inside the organizations. I always remember that when the IT started, the companies were basically trying to do more informatization with the processes, and it was everything about back office. The client was not checking, he was not seeing technology. Even in the internet, when the internet started, we started to understand that before arriving, for example, in a hotel, I can do the booking, I can do all the interaction, I can use email. It was amazing. But once you are in the pool, you are just at the pool. You don't see technology. When the change happened, it was around 2007 when mobile comes. And after 2015, when we start using wearables. And that sense of mixed hybrid world where you have technology, but you also have the physical connected, that's what we are talking about nowadays. The CRM is a word that is here for so many years, but what we are discussing now with HubSpot is not the same old school CRM. It's a new generation of CRM, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. I think you hit the nail when you mention on the evolution of devices, the portable devices, the mobile devices started to give, and the mobile devices that are interconnected to the internet. So if we look very back when the internet existed, was connected to computer, so you would access from, a fixed laptop, not even a laptop. You would have a desktop, so you would have a moment to make a reservation, and then you would disconnect. But with mobile internet and mobile devices becoming smarter and smarter, we were able to start to collect and more data when people are actually on move. So I think that allowed lots of businesses to create mobile apps, so we could interact and collect more information and give more services to the customers.
Most of the times when I work with hospitality companies working in strategies or developing digital transformation programs, the hardest part is to make them understand that we are talking about a guest-driven transformation and not necessarily a process-driven transformation. Is that the same that you are facing nowadays when you are showing a CRM as a core backbone of a transformation in a company?
I think there is a need for process transformation as well, but has to be driven by the guest experience. So I think whenever we look at these type of projects, and we need to start by understanding what is the ideal customer journey, what I want my customer to feel and experience from the moment he reaches to us, the books, he has the experience of using the hospitality services in the moment after. So once you have that journey well defined and clear, then you need to start linking processes, because processes are is what will make the organization work towards the orchestration of that journey.
There are different maturities in the market, you know that, and in the industry, this is probably not one of the most fast dynamic industries. But I was just checking the IDC predictions for 2026. They say that 75% of the hospitality brands will actually shift to omni-channel, guest-centric models powered by AI. So something is not just starting to change. 76% is pretty much, isn't it?
It is, and if you think the AI processes will be replacers of some of those human processes, and again, I think the logic has to be always the same. I have a clear customer journey that I want to orchestrate, and then I can have processes to support the execution of this journey that could be either human supported or AI driven, and that's where efficiencies, AI can only do so much, so it could be AI plus human,
So let's discuss one of the topics that I find more challenging in organization.
Find more?
All the organizations are kind of replicating the model that Mr. Ford back in years. They try to be the most efficient. They try to be a fabric. We come in with the input and you do as much as you can. The activity is more efficient as you can to deliver the maximum output. So either you are in the banking system and manufacturing, but also in hospitality, you still have that mind. And that in mind put you, again, more in a processes-oriented organization. That will lead to a department-oriented organization. When we discuss that nowadays we are focusing on the guest doesn't care if you are from department A, B, or C, or if you are using the application technology A, B, or C. Actually, nowadays, the challenge is not even internal. Most of the times, the customer don't care if it's the OTA in the beginning, if it's the hotel in the middle, if it's the bar or the restaurant with who you have a partnership. So today is an ecosystem transformation. So how can a CRM or an HubSpot be part of allow a company to be in this ecosystem and not just passing the message that you can do exactly the same, but with a very fancy tool like HubSpot?
It's a great question. So I think that what you're talking about is a multi-entity, multi-system. When we talk about different departments inside an organization, when we talk about different entities involved on a reservation process, the immediate thing it becomes very clear is how is this data all interconnected, and I think that's what CRM that's the play of the CRM. It's to kind of start to pull all that data into a central repository, very focused on a customer profile, where we start to understand all those interactions in one place, and then even if we want to again drive a human touch point, if you go to to interact with a human on a hospitality organization. By them having that consolidated view that aggregates all the interactions they had through an OTA or through a different channel, email, phone, whatever, it's in one place. So it's for them very easy to serve and do to execute whatever their task is correctly. And that applies as well for any other systems that can feed from that data to execute some other tasks. So again, it all goes back to data, having a centralized, repository of data around the customer that allow us to, act accordingly.
You just mentioned one thing that is particularly important, that is the sense of a core of data. And it is an enterprise core of data. Even it's an ecosystem core of data and not a departmental core of data. How do you see the barriers of showing up in an organization and say, now you will have a cross-platform that will cross different departments, so different leaderships, different agendas sometimes. How is this important to be the experience that you have from the past, this matricial way of seeing data? What are the challenges that you are seeing right now and you saw in the past?
I think, in fairness, in the hospitality customers I work, even though it's departmentalized, I think they all share the same interest of serving their guests well. Okay, so I think the departmentalization, it occurs due to the disconnected platforms that existed in the past, and I think when you have systems and platforms that are not talking to each other, you immediately create silos, and those people just work inside those. Like they only see that information, so they can't see what's happening on the other department. And it's through integration in creating this consolidated view that you actually can break the departmentalization of an organization.
So let me put a direct question. Who is today the buyer of a CRM like HubSpot in an organization of hospitality?
And like it comes usually from marketing and sales teams, because they are interested in driving revenue, of course, and increase occupation of either restaurants or hotels. Mainly, it's driven by them because they understand the need to have this consolidated profile of their customers, so they can do smarter marketing, do smarter segmentation, understand the what we were talking about the beginning, where to communicate, how to communicate, which channel better to communicate, and that constantly will help the sales teams to drive more sales and be more effective selling.
And what do you think from an organizational perspective are the biggest barriers? You already mentioned that the fact that different platforms are being used by different departments and processes is one. What are in specifically a project of CRM when you show up and you made the deal and you now can have this sense of a unique platform that will have this central view of the customer? What are the organizational barriers that you see nowadays?
It's change management. I think that's the most common problem in any CRM project. It's not even hospitality related. Is when you're introducing a tool that helps you orchestrate process and relationships with your customers, it will force it will change the way you work, and people are resistant to change, and sometimes there is those. Sometimes I feel there's some element of people a bit scared, like am I becoming redundant? And we say no, you will become more effective, and you will do your work much better.
But to get that story in the mind and people really believe on that, you don't discuss technology. Maybe you are actually discussing that what is cross-company is the data, because you still can have the different technologies, but you need to have a core of data that you can use to transform in information, in knowledge, and finally in decision-making and value, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's all driven again by the journey. Like I think what drives everything when we are doing this type of projects is what is the journey we want, or like not what we want when the customers have their own journeys, but how do I manage my customer journey in the best way? So I think by understanding, and there are different types of journeys, we need to have different moments where we are listening to know how to act correctly and accordingly.
Perfect. So we discuss a lot. Sometimes the barriers are internal barriers, the organizations, the departments, the directors of A or B area. But when these touch actually the client. The most complicated scenarios are when the client touch different platforms and touch different data, and sometimes data about him. And I touch a system that calls by my name. I touch another system that don't know me. This sense of the digital service is not consistent is something that you see that is happening, and the CRM as this core touch point with the client is solving?
It is, because again, like by introducing a CRM platform that join the dots between those siloed platforms allows to generate a unified not unified, a uniformed message that, and we can't only think about the platforms. We also need to think about the humans. There is a huge amount of human interaction on hospitality with the customer, and that has to be also aligned with the entire experience. And that can only happen, once again, if we have all the dots connected, and when someone is executing their part of the task on their job, they are able to consume that data, or manually or through a AI-assisted process, and serve the customer accordingly, and keeping that consistency between all the touch points, because touch points don't have to be necessarily all digital. They are human as well, you know.
It's not recommendable that you have all those technology silos, but even if you have, can an organization have this, let's almost say, strategic imperative that is, every touch point with the customer need to be centralized in one platform? Because if that's disrupted, even if you have too much touch points that are not actually digital and are human, you don't collect the data. If you don't collect the data, you cannot compute the data. If you cannot compute the data, you cannot take the smart decisions. So are you suggesting nowadays, and companies are really understanding that they cannot have different touch points in terms of technology with the clients and have to consolidate that in one platform?
Yes, because even if imagine the scenario, a concierge on a hotel, you go there and you ask a question. If you have a smart process of, recording that conversation, that that could cross a barrier of privacy. But in somehow, if you can input the feedback about what you were doing, if that's important, you collect. But in the end, what you want to do is give the customer the best response, and goes about, if I'm talking to you and I know you and I have your profile, my answer that I will give to you as a concierge will be very personalized, and you will appreciate it.
I was seeing a study that says that 40% of travel and hospitality leaders say that inconsistent digital services as actually the top cause of guest dissatisfaction. Because sometimes even if you turn, okay, now everything centralized, then you start to need the contextualization. Because if you are moving to an experience environment, you are actually not saying, okay, we have everything in one platform. But then you will need, no, I prefer the kiosk. No, I prefer the self-service. No, I prefer my mobile. No, I actually prefer to talk with someone. How this contextualization is managed through a CRM platform?
So it's almost the omni-channel orchestration, Again, like when we talk about multiple touch points, and you want to also give the freedom for your customer to decide which is the best channel to interact with you. Possibly if we are going to the elderly consumers or guests on hospitality, they probably prefer human contact to digital contact, and the younger lads will prefer exactly the opposite. They want to interact. They don't want to talk to humans. They prefer probably use a mobile communication, a text message, a WhatsApp. I think it's important because again, we will have different types of customers. Different types of customers have different types of journeys, and each of them will touch different touch points. And again, what you need to have is that orchestration about those different touch points. So again, you're serving different personas with a very consistent message.
Because independently of the type of journey you are designing, at least the sense that there's something happening before, during, and after is already good. And what I think is changing a lot is the real-time contextualization of the messages that you are sending to your customers. Because we already see lots of chains say, okay, give me your birth date and I will send you one SMS during the year. Happy birthday. And hopefully they they got it right. But we are talking about the need of contextualizing marketing in real time when the customers are inside the hotel, because I want to increase the revenue of that customer as much as I can now, not tomorrow. Are you seeing this pressure of coming the flow, not only the before and the after, but the now?
I think that makes sense. You don't want to massacre your customers, also bombarding them and spamming them with messages. I think there is a balance, and I think most of the marketing leaders are sensitive enough, not to be, spamming a customer like book a restaurant, book a restaurant, book a restaurant. I think you need to be smart, and the idea is more understanding customers that have potential to upsell, and the ones that that have no potential to upsell, don't even bother to annoy them, and learning and again, we have so much data that we can capture that we can do this type of micro segmentation.
But don't you feel that sometimes the hope and almost the faith in a technology is so high that people buy the HubSpot hoping that the HubSpot bring the journeys, bring the personas, bring everything prepared, but it's the opposite. I guess that what is happening is you have a clear view by design in the mind of the marketing responsible, and then you will embed that view, that strategy in the platform. So having a platform that is somehow customable, and you can adapt the platform to the journey and not the journey to the platform is critical, isn't it?
It is, and it's a test and error approach.
Okay.
Like I once had a prospect came to us and said, "Oh, my sales are decreasing. I want a CRM that increases my sales." So we all want that, okay? But the question here is when we are doing this type of projects, what we are doing is empowering organizations to be able to capture data, to do and try different techniques and strategies for each journey of the customer, measure and readjust. Okay. So it's never like, unless you're very lucky, you have to be very lucky to on the first try you get the best the best results. That never happen. You always tend to analyze the execution of a campaign, and you try to understand why a part is not working and why other could be generating more results.
Because sometimes I think when we discuss technology, and we discuss technology nowadays is mostly in the cloud, and my data is sent it to the cloud, companies get a little bit afraid of these kind of black boxes, that I will not see my data, I will not understand why the AI send this message or that message. How is the visibility in a CRM today a critical success factor?
What do you mean?
The visibility, how you understand actually, you can configure, you can manage the data, you can see the numbers, you have metrics that will help you to decide better. Because sometimes you do a campaign, you touch a button, something happens, but you cannot interact. You don't have the human in the loop. How a CRM is nowadays more a supportive technology and not necessarily an automated thing to do.
Like there's always, like the operations are automated, but they need to be humanly created. Okay, and again, like you can lean on AI tools to make your decisions on those campaigns better. You hope, But again, I think it's always a matter of executing and be very critical and look at the analytics, the reporting, the return of revenue, and analyze the data. Because this is a data game, and these tools, what they do is they turn that data into actionable insights and try to increase the efficiency of everything you're trying to do.
And looking to a CRM like HubSpot, are you looking more to data or more to metrics that will help you to decide and let the AI, the automation do the leading with the data, but actually you see lots of metrics that will help you to decide? Is that the sense that you can give a management tool to a marketing leader and not necessarily an operational tool?
I think processes are driven by metrics, okay? And if the metrics are not good, you revisit the process, and one influences the other. Of course, your metrics are, if they are good, you will believe that your process is supposedly working well. So I think the metrics is the end result, and each business need to have their own objectives. They need to prioritize what's important for their business, and those metrics will give you, it's like the lights on I'm missing the word now.
The dashboard, you have greens,
the greens, the
yeah,
yellows,
yeah.
and the reds. You
Okay.
know, like you understand. If you have a green, it's good news because you're in the in the metrics that you're.
Yeah, the
you
good
consider.
metric will give you a good,
Yeah.
a good metric, a good goal, and a good decision after that. Okay.
Today with us, we have a special guest, Luke from Cinch. Hi, Luke. Thank you for joining us. Can you introduce yourself and Cinch?
Sure. No, thanks for having me. So Luke Jenkins, I look after partnerships within ecosystems for Cinch, centered in the UK and EMEA.
Can you introduce a little bit what is Cinch and what are you doing today?
Yeah, sure. So Cinch, we're global communications providers. And that encompasses most channels that you could think of: voice, email, SMS, RCS we're going to talk about a lot today. And then obviously we're now looking to more modern channels like chatbots and things like this. So really helping businesses really of all sizes communicate with their customers and stuff.
Yeah, one of the things that we've been discussing is that most of the things that you are doing right now in customer engagement, actually you were already doing it in the past. But nowadays you are trying to do it more in real time, more with speed and contextualization. How do you see the transformation in the last years in this way of interacting? Because you just want more clients in your venue. But what is actually changing?
So I think as a general theme, it's becoming harder and harder for businesses and for brands, right? Everyone is used to receiving offers, promotions, messages from all of these different businesses. So I think in terms of the challenge that a business has, right, it's identifying customers, attracting customers, and then being able to convert them. So that's part of the challenge. Mm-hmm. And then the second part is once we've actually managed to acquire a customer and to start to form that relationship with them, how do we then go and deliver a really first-class experience to them? So I think that's challenge one, just making sure that you talked earlier about the customer journey and it's doing both bits, because really only winning your customer is half the battle.
Okay.
Yeah. And is the channel a differentiator? If you manage WhatsApp, text message, RCS now, do you believe that there is a difference in efficiency when we communicate with our customers using different channels?
There definitely is, and there's different metrics. I mean, a really classic one that you'll hear within the industry is email open rates versus SMS open rates, because generally an email open rate would be somewhere around 20%, whereas on SMS we talked about it being closer to 98% in terms of the open rate. So there's quite a big difference, but that doesn't mean that one is better than the other, right? So I think we're moving to a place where having an omni-channel strategy is super important, because again, you were speaking about it earlier, maybe for an older demographic, they're still going to prefer to actually speak to a human or to receive an email, whereas millennials and other consumers, they're going to prefer a mobile first form of communication. So I think it's understanding who your audience are, and then what are the channels that they actually want to engage with you. So really, as a brand, it's about me being present wherever my customers are and communicating however they want to be.
I have to say, the first time that I heard about RCS, Diogo told me about RCS and told me there's this guy, Luke, that is exploring this new technology. So I got a little bit excited because this is not everywhere right now. What is RCS? Is the next big thing in the contextualization of marketing?
He sold me.
So everyone is so excited with this RCS. What is RCS?
Yeah, I mean, we're very, very excited about it. It's not actually as new a technology. It's been around in some form for a number of years, but there were real challenges where it wasn't supported on iOS devices, for example, and there were always some slight complexities with the pricing model that made it harder to go and get people excited about it. Whereas now we're at that perfect tipping point where all of those things are aligned. We can support Android and iOS, and then we're going to see more and more countries fully rolling out and supporting RCS. So RCS, or Rich Communication Services, is SMS 2.0. It's the uplift, right? So it's taking everything that's good about SMS with the ubiquity, the immediacy of SMS, and then really bringing in that nice app-like experience where we can add in the richer elements. There's also a lot of other benefits to it as well. So at the moment, if you receive a text message, it can be from a random number. Hopefully it could be from a brand name, but
it could be a scam, and that's a major threat.
Yeah,
nowadays
some
when
people
we receive
can think that, right? And as I suppose as a consumer, I'm hoping that whoever's kind of setting that brand up and sending me a message, you hope that they've done their due diligence and it is legitimate. But really, as a consumer, when it lands on my phone, I haven't really got a way to validate that. Whereas with RCS, you have to get your RCS agent registered. And that means that you have a profile, you can have your branding, your logo, you get verified, so a trusted shield with the tick mark through it. And that needs to be pre-registered. So you know if you receive an RCS message, it's completely legitimate. So that's the trust and security element of it.
Okay.
And then, unlike SMS, where we never actually know if somebody's read a message, we can say, hey, you sent 1,000 messages. This is how many were successfully delivered to a handset. But unless you combine it with some sort of link tracking, you're never really going to know what the engagement looked like with an SMS. Whereas with RCS, much like WhatsApp, you get read receipts now. So we now have a much more trusted, credible message that we can then actually go and make some informed decisions around because we can report on the engagement.
Exactly, we can get those metrics we were talking about.
Which is huge, right? Where we want to build up a customer profile. And then the last element, of course, is the richer elements where we can have images, moving carousels with a catalog selection and predefined button responses.
So in the stack layer of technology, and I was remember the nightmares of memorizing Aussie model. Something is changing in the message levels, but where Cinch actually is entering. Imagine a hospitality organization. I found amazing that you're saying that is more trustable, more verifiable. You can manage what's in it for an hospitality player to get into this world of RCS.
I think naturally brands, they want to innovate. You want to be an early adopter of new technology, right? And if you think hospitality is a prime industry where you want to create a really great customer experience, and that's at every touch point with a customer, right? So now that RCS is out there, you want to be one of those brands that are using it, because otherwise you're using you talked about old school channels earlier, right? So if you're relying on that, that's the status quo or what a customer's been used to receiving. But then if another hotel or another option is sending me a promotional message or a check-in message and it's branded, it looks nice, I can trust it, it just creates a much stronger first impression when I'm dealing with that brand.
I remember the first time we talked about RCS a few months ago, and when you sold me all this idea, one of the things that excited me a lot about it was that feature you mentioned of being able to send carousels and action buttons. Because when I heard that, I immediately thought customers or companies that put in place smart processes with these new technology, they will no longer need to build apps because you can personalize any action, and that for an app is impossible to do, because for you to give something to a customer, the interface has to be built and you need to add features, as this is inside the phone and can trigger actionable actions.
Yeah, great point. And I think the fact it lives in your native messaging inbox is a huge benefit. It navigates around the app problem. I mean, even me as a prime example, right? So I just checked into Lisbon. We had a power outage, and so I knew that the hotel was probably going to send me something, but they'd initiated contact, but I had to go looking for the information. So I have to go into my booking.com app, look for the message bit, and they actually said they had to close part of the hotel, so there was going to be a different entrance that was actually accessed through the restaurant. So I had to go and get the restaurant name, navigate out of my app, go back into Google Maps to then go and see how to get there, right? Whereas that whole, I suppose, experience can just live in the one place on the app. They could have sent me a message with a map link, and I can see the map preview. Easy, right?
So we are talking about two levels that are, for me, are different, because we have an amazing new type of channel, or at least communication. We have the sense that CRM is changing the way the organizations are centralizing this view of the client. How these two worlds collaborate? What's the connection of CRM and RCS?
When I heard about these, I think it's again, we are creating a channel that is that builds that trust. I think the element of trust that Luke said in the beginning, I think one of the reasons possibly why text message became, I wouldn't say obsolete, but not many companies or organizations use, is because so many scams happen through fake SMSs that people receive with links. So like this level of protection, the credibility of a profile, you trust, it's a trusted, who's sending you the message. So it's like you immediately bought in, so you can actually act and do anything. And then I think by connecting to a CRM and with all the data that we can collect about our customers allow us to do hyper. It's not even personalization; it's hyper actions, hyper specific actions to a moment of the customer. Like exactly like Luke is explaining this issue he had. Like he could have just received a link. The instructions all in the same channel.
Yeah, just following on from what Diogo said there, I'd say, SMS is still very heavily used. So it's not that it's not used, but I think there's potentially limitations to the use cases where you can apply that, right? So promotional communications that you're sending out or confirmations can still work very, very well, right? Thanks for booking. If I want to access my booking or to go and visit the company's website, I can have a link there, and that can be a branded link. So it serves its purpose. I think where it maybe is restricted or stops that customer journey and being much freer is if, life happens, problems happen, right? So if my flight is delayed and I have to reschedule travel or a pickup or something like that, it's how I want to interact with where I'm staying, maybe the hotel. I want that to be a trusted platform to do it. I think that's probably the difference for me, because if it's something big, I want to know that I've got a roof over my head when I land, or that if I do change my seat or add a baggage, I want to know for sure that change has happened. Whereas I think you probably lack that confidence if you were to do it over channels that are maybe not as verified.
But imagine that I'm in the management of an hotel and I find amazing this new channel. Is this something that I can add to the channels that I already use when I'm designing a campaign in a CRM, or is something that I can use independently? The CRM will come more with the integration factor, and you have actually a design and not just throwing messages with more trust, but at the end of the day are just individual messages. How someone that is nowadays listening to us in a hotel say, I want to use it, is this through the CRM? How you actually put it in practice?
Yeah. So you could do it both ways, right? You could use it as a standalone channel, but I think we see more and more businesses wanting to use integrations into CRMs like HubSpot, right? And that's really that's your source of truth. That's where all of my customer data lives. And I think that's a really important point, because it's not just that what are we communicating in terms of, I want to send an RCS message.
Is what to communicate.
Yeah, exactly. What's the content? Because it needs to be personalized, it needs to be engaging to the customer. So it sort of feels like you need to have both parts of it to have a really effective communication strategy. So that's where HubSpot comes in, and then whatever customer data you've got stored in your CRM, you can actually use that to go and fuel your message. And in terms of mixing it with other channels, super easy to do, right? I mean, we exist in the app marketplace, and I think that's one of the strengths of HubSpot. Any gap or optimization that you might want to do outside of the core platform, you can pretty much find it, and it exists in the marketplace now if we want to go and elevate our tech stack to add to that. So, once you've connected our app, you don't need to do anything differently. And even with RCS, as long as you've registered your RCS agent, I don't need to do anything different. I can try to send as an SMS, and because we upscale it, any compatible handsets that we can deliver it as an RCS, great. The end user gets the nice, rich RCS experience. Okay. If not, it's an automatic default or fallback to SMS.
Do you have any example that you already implemented with HubSpot? Not necessarily in hospitality, but generically, is this already being used?
And so we are working in a proof of concept with Cinch, with the customer. But the idea is we are waiting also on the evolution. So I think, look, there is a roadmap for RCS. So all these carousels and buttons are not yet available, correct?
In terms of HubSpot, that's going to be coming in a future release. But what you can do now is the RCS upscale. Okay. So as of today, a customer could send out an SMS campaign in the normal way, and just by registering their RCS agent, they can go and to those compatible handsets, to that section of the audience, they can send it as an RCS. But the richer elements are going to be integrated into our HubSpot application coming next quarter, actually.
Who will be needing? Who is the agent? Is the hotel, the restaurant, is the entity that need to be registered, as you mentioned?
Yeah, so it'll be it's really the brand that you want to represent.
Okay.
So within your hotel group, that may be one brand, or if you wanted to, or if you were representing multiple brands, for example, in the portfolio, you would just go and register your RCS agent for each respective brand.
But you could have the same brand, like an hotel brand that has branch A, B, or C with their each individual profile.
Different agents.
Yeah, because it makes lots of sense. Because if we are communicating to the guest, the guest might even use hotel A and B and C from the same chain,
Just to explore the stage of the technology, and what about multi-location entities and operators? Is this also cross-country, cross-region?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So really, you would do nothing different as you would do to an SMS. I suppose the difference as of right now is just the coverage between certain countries, whereas SMS, you've got full coverage into pretty much every country. Whereas with RCS, in terms of full coverage, you've now got UK, France, Spain, Germany, and the US rolling out RCS. In other pockets through Europe and the world, that's starting to increase now. But in a lot of them, there's partial coverage. In terms of where maybe it's supported on Android but not on iOS yet.
Okay.
So it's something that's going to build momentum, I think, in the latter part of the year.
So first movers, pay attention, right?
Yeah.
It's the chain. Can you remember any use case that you implemented recently that actually, not only from the technology perspective, that's actually interesting to be trustful, but in a business perspective, can you give us some examples of implementations or use cases of implementation of RCS and how these new platforms were implemented in one specific organization?
In terms of use case, are we talking about? So I mean, there's some really nice case studies that we've got on the website as well if people want to go and check that out. I really like the one with Paris Saint-Germain. Unfortunately, they just beat my team Arsenal last night, so maybe that's why it's in my head. But they're actually using it to attract a new audience, really, new subscribers, not in France, but actually in the US. So they registered their RCS agents. They were sending out to more of an international base to increase subscribers. So promotional content that they're sending out, but very, very targeted towards an audience that they knew had an affiliation for the brand and for PSG.
Okay. In that case, to become members or just to subscribe or to buy something in the shop of Paris Saint-Germain?
Yeah, all of the above. Because once they're in that distribution list and they've become a subscriber, then obviously that gives them the ability to follow up with targeted offers and to send out really engaging content. And that sometimes it's more informational, can be around the team. Sometimes that's offers and promotions, whether it's to watch them online or in person.
In that case, do you remember if it was somehow related with the design with the CRM behind, or it was directly one experience that Paris Saint-Germain
that was sent through the Sinch Conversation API that they did. So that one wasn't necessarily tied to the CRM, but it could work in exactly the same way, right? Because the CRM, as you said earlier, is just that repository, right? So if I'm using HubSpot, it could be another CRM. However you've got your customer data stored, that's really the currency that you've got to play with. So as all of your customer data lives there, I think one of the recommendations for brands that want to communicate effectively is to leverage what's in the CRM and not just send once a year it's your birthday, right? You went on this trip to this location. What was the primary purpose of your visit? Was it for business or for pleasure? And the cool thing with RCS, because it can be just one way or sending a notification, but it's designed to be conversational by nature. So it starts to shift the dynamic from something that's a little bit vanilla to I can actually ask you, hey Bruno, traveling anywhere soon? And then if you reply back yes, it's from a brand that I trust, I know that it's a verified profile, and then I can ask what city you're traveling to, I can send you some suggestions. So it moves to be a much more free-flowing conversation.
Okay. So in a sense of evolution, when you see nowadays and when we are exploring HubSpot with clients, are you already explaining this sense that this is not about campaigns. This is about journey, because what you mentioned, many companies want to use these tools to send a campaign and have a beginning and the end, but having this continuous flow of, no, this is my client forever. I want to be with this client forever. Do you see that mindset already being developed with the CRM?
I think we as the digital transformation agents, we push these things because it's very hard for an hospitality customer to even know what RCS means. So like we promote these type of new technologies when we see that there is a potential to add value to our customers, and this is where I think RCS can be very interesting for our hospitality brands, because you're adding a new channel that, as Luke was mentioning, could have much more interesting engagement rates. Again, you will use metrics to understand if that's working or not. And again, like as that trusted delivery process, that I think it's brilliant.
Because one of the things that we see a lot is, again, when we discuss silos, is very common that someone from the marketing, for example, see a campaign and start, okay, I'm seeing a campaign. But when you discuss journeys, the marketing is not the only one that is involved in the journey. And someone that is seated by the pool, that probably someone in the hotel wants more revenue or a better operation, they actually also want to develop some communication. So this is not a platform for campaigns, but for communication along the journey, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You could use it as a channel of asking for service, for help, and you could have in the other end a bit of AI as well. So you can use it for any. You're adding a channel.
And I mean, you talk about upsell opportunity whilst also complementing that with a better customer experience. Because once somebody's actually checked into the hotel, they're there to an extent. They're a captive audience. So why not? Let's give them a great experience. We can send them a message, how was your check-in? We can give them a nice, easy response with a button. We can send them a carousel. Is there anything that you'd like for your room? With a few predefined selections based on their demographic
or their preferences,
And now let me just make a curiosity, because we are so focused in data, as much data you can, more better decisions you can make. When you think about Cinch and your platform, where's the platform going to collect all that context information? Because someone is there in the hotel, but you need, is he in the pool? Where is it? How the data is collected to contextualize the messages that you are sending?
So that's why I say that will be the CRM playing the role, because the CRM, again, collects the data, triggers an engagement point, and uses the channel.
Perfect. Okay.
Exactly. Okay. We're really the vehicle, right? I mean, the CRM powers everything, and then what we allow a customer or brand to do is send out their communications on a channel that they think is right, and then that can also be based on behaviours or actions that a customer's taken, right? And then if they reply to a message, then we can then go and trigger other workflows so they can get a nice automated follow-up or different options. So it's really dynamic, but again, everything's going to be powered by the CRM.
Yeah, somehow for so many years, I think we're discussing CRM, but we forget that the R is for relationship, and to keep the relationship, and not only through things and do better campaigns and have more digital marketing, isn't it? Yeah. I think finally we are trying to explore the relationship as something that is forever. Right?
And that you want to be unforgettable.
Okay, unforgettable. Okay, so I think this is exciting. Hopefully will be available for many companies in the future, as you're saying, and the interaction with HubSpot will be also available, as you say, quite
It is
soon.
available
already. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So just to make sure that I describe that effectively, you can do RCS today.
Okay.
And if we're talking largely for UK customers and some of the other countries that I mentioned there, I mean, very, very quick process to register your RCS agent. And then once that's verified, you can go and send, like I say, in exactly the same way that you would do an SMS campaign. So you get all of the benefits of SMS, plus we can bring in having your verified profile. So you can do that bit today, and you can send it out through HubSpot. And then obviously in terms of hospitality, I think as we come to add some of the moving carousels and action buttons in the very near future, that's when we're going to find some really cool use cases to add on to that.
Okay, perfect. That was amazing, Luke. Thank you very much for coming.
No, thanks, guys.
Thank you. It was a great conversation.